It's 30-40. Break point. The crowd is buzzing. And somehow, Novak Djokovic doesn't blink. He doesn't rush. He doesn't panic. He just tosses the ball, snaps through it, and paints the line like it's practice. And according to multiple ATP players, that exact moment is where matches against Djokovic quietly die. Because what many of them are now saying about his serve might completely change the way you see his game. At 38 years old, chasing a historic 25th Grand Slam title, Djokovic is still finding new ways to win. And while the world talks about his return, his backhand, his flexibility, and his mental strength, something else has been quietly evolving in the background. His serve. And not just any serve. A clutch serve. This conversation really picked up after the 2026 Australian Open, where Djokovic made another deep run and reached the final. He was chasing history there, one major away from surpassing Margaret Court's all-time record of 24 Grand Slam singles titles. Standing in his way was Carlos Alcaraz, who ended up winning that final and becoming the youngest man in history to complete the career Grand Slam. But here's what people missed. Despite the loss, Djokovic's serve under pressure throughout that tournament was frighteningly precise. In big moments, when most players tighten up, he seemed to elevate. And that's exactly what Chris Eubanks revealed recently. Speaking on the Serve podcast with Andy Roddick, Eubanks shared what many ATP players have been quietly saying in locker rooms. He said the one part of Novak's game that doesn't get talked about enough is his serve. Not the power, not the aces, the clutch factor. He explained that players who have faced Djokovic consistently describe him as one of the most clutch servers they've ever played against. And coming from tour professionals, that's not hype. That's respect earned the hard way. Andy Roddick, who built a career around one of the biggest serves in tennis history, took it even further. He said if you look at Djokovic's serve now and compare it to what it looked like in 2007 and 2008, it's almost shocking. Back then, the motion was awkward. The elbow dropped low. The racket face opened up. There were technical flaws. At times, it looked unstable. Roddick even joked about Djokovic throwing grenades in those early years. But today, it's smooth, clean, economical, repeatable under pressure. And that transformation might be one of the most underrated improvements in modern tennis history. Let's break down what this actually means. In the 2026 Australian Open final against Alcaraz, Djokovic hit 4 aces compared to Alcaraz's 9. On paper, that makes it seem like Alcaraz had the bigger serve. But look deeper. Djokovic landed 71% of his first serves. Alcaraz was at 69%. That's razor close. Djokovic won 66% of his first serve points. Alcaraz won 77%. On second serve points, Djokovic won 61%. Alcaraz won 71%. So yes, statistically, Alcaraz had the edge in that match. But numbers don't tell the full story. Because when the pressure moments came earlier in the tournament, especially in that semifinal comeback against Jannik Sinner, Djokovic's serve was the stabilizer. When rallies were getting brutal, when Sinner was redlining from the baseline, Djokovic would suddenly land a wide serve on the line or fire a body serve that jammed him completely. Momentum swing stopped instantly. That's what Eubanks was talking about. He said players describe facing Djokovic and thinking they finally have a chance at 15-30. Maybe they've read his patterns. Maybe they've started timing his return games. And then, out of nowhere, Djokovic hits a serve on a dime. Sometimes it's a 120-mile-per-hour laser to the corner. Sometimes it's a cutter out wide that barely kisses the line. Sometimes it's a 110-mile-per-hour second serve that surprises you because you were expecting something safe. And that's the real psychological damage. You think second serve means opportunity. Against Djokovic, second serve can mean regret. Eubanks explained that players often don't fully appreciate how precise Djokovic's serve is until they are physically standing on the other side of the net. From the stands, it doesn't look overwhelming. It doesn't look like the bomb serves of players like John Isner or the raw heat of peak Milos Raonic. It looks controlled, but that control is exactly what makes it lethal. Djokovic himself addressed this after his 2025 Miami Open semifinal win against Grigor Dimitrov. In that match, he missed just 6 first serves. 6. Afterward, he said something fascinating. He admitted that his serve has probably been underrated throughout his career. He acknowledged that most conversations about his game revolve around his return and his backhand. And he's right. When people talk about the greatest returner of all time, Djokovic's name comes up first. When they talk about defensive movement, elasticity, sliding on hard courts, it's Djokovic. But the serve? It rarely headlines. He even said he was never obsessed with hitting 130 miles per hour. He would rather serve 120 and hit the perfect spot. Precision over ego. And that philosophy is aging beautifully. At 38, raw power naturally declines. But accuracy? That can actually sharpen with experience. He knows patterns better than anyone. He reads opponents like a chess master. And when he serves, he's not just hitting a ball. He's executing a plan. Let's also talk about something Roddick mentioned that doesn't get enough attention. Fitness. Roddick said the two most improved areas of any great player he has ever seen were both Djokovic's. Serve and fitness. Think about that. This is a man who has already won 24 Grand Slams. And somehow, two of his biggest weapons are things he built later in his career. Early Djokovic was elastic, but inconsistent physically. Mid-career Djokovic became a machine. Late-career Djokovic is somehow still going toe-to-toe with players 15 years younger. That matters for the serve. Because serving well in the first set is one thing. Serving well at 4-5 in the fifth set after 3 hours is something else entirely. And ATP players are saying that's where Djokovic becomes almost robotic. The toss doesn't waver. The motion doesn't rush. The placement stays sharp. Even in the 2025 Miami Open final, which he eventually lost to Jakub Mensik in two tight tie-break sets, his serve was not the problem. Mensik played fearless tennis and captured his first Masters 1000 title. That was a breakthrough moment. But Djokovic's serve remained solid throughout that event. He even said other areas of his game weren't clicking as well, yet the serve held up. So here's the bigger question. Is Novak Djokovic's serve now one of the most underrated weapons in tennis history? Not the biggest, not the flashiest, but one of the most reliable under pressure. When you combine elite placement, disguise, improved mechanics, and decades of match intelligence, you get something uniquely dangerous. And here's where it gets interesting. If he does capture that 25th Grand Slam title, if he finally moves past Margaret Court's record, I genuinely believe historians will look back and say his serve in his late 30s was a major reason why. Because you can't grind physically forever. You can't outlast everyone in endless baseline exchanges at 40. But you can serve smart. You can steal quick points. You can protect your legs. You can shorten games and apply scoreboard pressure. And that might be the evolution we're watching in real time. Djokovic isn't just surviving on tour at 38. He's adapting. He's refining. He's weaponizing efficiency. And the locker room knows it. That's why Eubanks' comments matter so much. Players are brutally honest behind closed doors. They don't hype opponents for fun. If anything, they downplay them. So when multiple ATP professionals say, almost in disbelief, that Djokovic is one of the most clutch servers they've faced, that a compliment earned through painful experience. Now, let me ask you something. When you think about Novak Djokovic, is serve even in your top 3 traits that define him? Probably not. You think return. You think mental strength. You think sliding defense and backhand down the line. But maybe it's time to update that image. Because the evolution of his serve might be the quiet storyline of his final chapter of his career. And here's the scary part for the rest of the tour. He believes in it. When Djokovic publicly says his serve has been underrated, that's not arrogance. That's a player acknowledging a strength he's worked years to build. Confidence in your serve changes everything. It allows you to swing freer on return games. It allows you to take more risks in rallies. It gives you scoreboard comfort. And in tie-breaks, it becomes gold. We saw that even in losses. Against Alcaraz in Melbourne, the margins were thin. Against Mensik in Miami, both sets went to tie-breaks. Those matches weren't blowouts. They were decided by a handful of points. And when you live in that razor-thin world, the serve becomes your lifeline. So here's my prediction. As the 2026 season unfolds, and as Djokovic continues chasing that historic 25th slam, watch the serve closely. Not the speed gun, not just the ace count, Watch when he chooses to go wide on the ad side. Watch how often he targets the body under pressure. Watch how frequently he lands first serves at 30 all. That's where the story is. Because if he does break the record, it won't just be about heart or legacy or experience. It will be about evolution. It will be about turning a former weakness into a late career shield. And it will validate what ATP players are already saying quietly. That Novak Djokovic's serve, especially in the biggest moments, is one of the most clutch shots in sport today. Now I want to hear from you. Has Djokovic's serve become one of the most underrated weapons in tennis history? Or do you still think his return and baseline game define him more? And if he wins at 25th Slam, will the serve be the difference? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all, and the best takes always shape our next deep dive. This is why we love this sport. It's not just about power. It's about adaptation. It's about details. It's about finding new edges when everyone thinks they figured you out. And right now, Novak Djokovic might be winning matches with a weapon most fans barely talk about. That's the beauty of tennis. And that's why we break it down the way we do here on Tennis IQ.